welcome back to another episode of Come Back Stronger, brought to you by Facing Brooks. I'm Dana Brooks, and I'm joined again today by my law partner, Jimmy Facing.
Hello.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
Doing amazing.
Are you as excited about these guests as I am?
I really am.
Yeah, I want to tell everybody who we've got. We've got two people on the show today. First, we've got Leon Jackson. He's a wonderful man, wonderful story from the Jacksonville area. And Jimmy, he's got a couple of things in common with you. I know we're going to be excited to bring his story to people. He had a lot of problems, like so many people did, run-ins with the law as a young person, but a very important person believed in him and came into his life at the right time, and he was able to turn it around. We've also got Jimmy, Renee Miller.
Yes.
You might have remembered her last week. She was featured on the Empower Hour, which
Yes.
is a Zoom conference we do with a guest. My law partners and I do it every week on the Empower Plan. That's another group, like your Come Back Stronger group, that our firm offers. But she's got a very interesting story of a childhood, very unusual, that most people don't have to deal with, and she overcame a lot of those things. But we're going to first hear from Leon, and you know what happened to him when he got in trouble? A judge believed in him. What do you think?
Well, this is the thing. So we're all about comeback stories,
Yeah.
and that's what this show is all about. And what you'll see as a common thread in these comeback stories is where there's somebody that believes in the person that is going through a very challenging time.
Right.
And so in this case, what you're going to see is there was a judge. And a lot of times it's a judge, it's a police officer, it's a friend, it's a family
pastor.
member,
Yeah.
it's a pastor.
It's usually a leader.
So a lot of times it's an authority figure. But those acts of kindness, the act of believing in somebody and helping someone when they're down, that is sometimes so powerful that is the pivotal moment or the pivotal point that changes someone's life.
And you've turned into one of these people.
Yes.
Jimmy is one of these people in so many lives, and he does what these judges and authority figures do to help their people that they've encountered, and that is to challenge them to set goals and to believe in themselves and to see a bigger life for themselves than they could have envisioned. You do that for people every day, and you help break it down and piece it out to where they can actually see a path to where they want to be. And I think that's what we found with Leon Jackson. You may have remembered there was a lot of talk about him in the Jacksonville area whenever he ran for office. That's a pretty bold move. Have you ever considered that, Jimmy?
Running for office is not for me.
No?
I'd rather be a kingmaker than a king. But I do appreciate Leon running for office, and I appreciate the judge that believed in him. I'm excited for y'all to hear this story.
We're going to be back in just a second to hear more about Leon Jackson's story.
We're giving you a game plan on how you can take back control of your life to not just get back to where you were before you started, but also to come back stronger. This is a tragedy in your life, it's an accident, or it's a loss that you never expected to suffer. But every tragedy carries with it the seed of an equal opportunity. And so our job is to guide our clients to take advantage of that opportunity. And that is the most fulfilling thing that I do in my job. When I give my client that settlement check at the end of the day, if they can walk out of there feeling like they are the hero of their own story and they're proud of themselves because they did what I asked them to do, they took my guidance and they ended up with seeing that light at the end of the tunnel and actually reaching that light, that's what it's all about.
And we're back. We're going to hear right now from Kimmy Hogan, our law partner, in this exciting story she's bringing to us today.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Please tell us your name and what you do.
My name is Leon Jackson. I'm a senior manager at the clerk's office. I came to the clerk's office in handcuffs and shackles as a juvenile. Came in and Judge Foster gave me a second chance at life. He gave me community service hours in the courthouse. Started out painting the jail cells. Once I finished the jail cells, I moved to other parts of the courthouse, started painting. And after I finished painting, they started me out in the juvenile department, putting files together and from there.
And now you've been at the clerk's office for 31 years.
31 years.
Wow. And you're a senior manager.
Senior manager.
All right, so how old were you when you were first arrested?
I was 16 the first time.
Okay, 16 years old.
16, and then 17 the the second time.
And so when you're 17 years old, that's when you came into contact with Judge Foster.
Judge Foster.
Judge Foster, and he helped you turn your life around, is
Yes,
that right?
he did. Yes, he did.
All right, so you show up in front of Judge Foster, and what does he say to you?
He said, I don't know why I haven't sent you away yet, but I feel like if someone gave you a second chance at life, you can do great things. And that's when he gave me the community service hours.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, did your relationship with the judge end there?
No. I had to report to him every week.
Every week. And was that something everybody had to do, or this was just a special thing with you?
That was just me. I had to report to him, and he asked me what were my goals.
So what were your goals when you first showed up?
I told him I didn't have any goals, and he told me to tell him the truth. So I told him Tony Montana was that's what I wanted to be like.
And who's Tony Montana?
He's a kingpin from Scarface.
All right. So 17 years old, that's your goal.
That was my goal.
And what did Judge Foster say?
He said, when you come back next week, you better have something else for me.
So what'd you say the next week?
So the next week I came in, this guy named Paul Murray was a senior manager at the clerk's office, and everybody loved Paul Murray. So I said, that's what I want to be, like Paul Murray. So in the following week, I went back to Judge Foster, and he asked me the same thing, what's your goal? I said, I want to be like Paul Murray. He said, well, who is Paul Murray? And I told him. He said, well, when you come back next week, have something else for me. And so I was like, what does this guy want from me? Mm-hmm. So go back and continue my community service hours, and then I seen Henry Cook come in. He was the clerk of the court at the time. So when I went back the following week to talk to Judge Foster, I said, I want to be the clerk of the court. And he said, well, that's what I'm talking about.
That's it.
Yes. Don't let nobody tell you what you can't be. He say, go for it.
How awesome. So Judge Foster pushes you to set a high goal.
Yes.
And now 31 years later, you've been at the clerk's this whole time, and you just ran for office.
Yes, I sure did.
That's wonderful. That is incredible.
That was the hardest decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Yes, I had to let my boss know that I was running against him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was tough.
Yep.
Yes.
But y'all are still friends.
We're
you and your
still friends.
boss.
Yeah, Jody Phillips, he's a good guy.
I think that's so wonderful that y'all were so civil and that y'all are still friends.
Yes.
Even after being able to run against each other for an office. That's
Yes.
really neat. All right, well, tell us, what was it that helped you? I know Judge Foster was part of it, but what really helped you go from, you were going down a path of a life of crime.
Yes.
And you flipped the script.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? How'd you do it?
How did I do it? My uncle, Adam Fluker, he's been with the JSO for 57 years. He stayed on me constantly about doing the right thing. He bugged me every day. He would ask me, what am I doing? How am I doing? That's pretty much it. If it wasn't for him, or Judge Foster, I would be dead right now.
Yeah. So what about those friends that you had back when you were in high school?
It was 5 of us. I'm the only one living. Everybody else got murdered.
So if you were to give some advice to teenagers who are living a life of crime right now, what's your advice?
My advice, if I can change, anybody can change.
Yeah.
Just because you're in that environment doesn't mean you have to do what they're doing. Find your goal or a role model.
It's incredible what you've been able to do. And I understand that you're giving back to the community, going to talk to kids after they've been arrested. Is that right?
Yes. Judge Horkin does a second chance court. I go in and talk to them and tell them where I was and where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. Like I said, if I can do it, they can do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the smartest person in the world. So.
It's all about putting one foot in front of the other, isn't it?
Yep. One day at a time.
Yeah. Helping others where you can.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about other things that you're doing in the community.
I volunteer with different organizations. I also do my own thing called Senior Fun Day, where I go to different senior living facilities and they get a gift bag, have a live band, bingo, feed everybody, just have fun with them.
That's awesome.
Also do a lot of work with the Jim Dotson Foundation, Clara White Foundation, Cook Community Cleanup, and also write different organization checks. So if you know anybody that has an organization, look me up and we'll talk about it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
We had someone on from the Claire White Foundation the other week here on our show as well. Great group in Jacksonville. And you're a longtime Jacksonville native, right?
Yes.
How long have you been here?
50 years.
Oh, your whole life.
My whole life. My whole life.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, you are a gem in the community, and we really appreciate you coming on to share your story with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Kimmy. What a great story from Leon. I got a couple of takeaways for me. One of them was I like that he'd go back to the judge with a goal, and the judge would challenge him to, okay, that's okay, that's good, you're on the right track, but push yourself some more, do better. What do you think about that?
That's the
You're a goal
message.
setter.
That is the message for leaders in our community, is that you never know how you're going to influence somebody that is in your orbit.
You don't.
And so this judge, Judge Foster, told Leon, look, you need to push yourself, and then he pushed himself even further and even further, and then and look at what happened. He went from a young man who was destined to be murdered like his 4 other friends.
80% of that group.
And instead of that, he is now a productive member of society and giving back to the community in multiple ways. And this is all because of the kindness of a leader like Judge Foster, which is so exciting and so awesome.
And you know what else it tells you? Just think how many eyeballs are on you.
Yeah.
You don't know who is looking at your conduct, your behavior, your character, and thinking that's what I want to be. And sometimes that's definitely what I don't want to
Right.
be. But this man could say, I want to be like this person. He had a lot of people he could look up to, the leaders in his world. Then he had, what else do we see in these stories all the time? Someone in law enforcement, someone at JSO said, I'm going to check on you every day. I'm going to be, a pain in your rear end until you get it together. Because that's somebody who just says, I'm not giving up on you. There are no limits. But I love these second chances shows.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, we'll be right back after this. When you come into my firm, you see a lot of faces that look like yours. You see a lot of people that had the same problem before they got to work. A lot of people who left kids with mismatched shoes and a lunch bag, screaming, just because you had an appointment you had to make. We get you. We get you.
You have to go to a lawyer that will understand your story as a woman. Because women have different stories than men do, and that's just a fact of life. And if you're a woman that's been injured, either through a slip and fall or a trip and fall in an auto accident, you have to go to a lawyer that's going to understand what your daily existence was like before, what it's like now, what the injury means to your entire family, and what you need to do to come back and be where you were before, and even come back and be stronger than where you were before. They just need to have the courage to pick up the phone, because we are going to take the burden of this accident or you being hurt off of your shoulders. We're going to put it on our shoulders. Right. So you don't have to worry about it. Exactly. You can worry about everything else in your life, but not this accident. We're going to worry about that for you.
And we're back. We're going to hear from Kimmy Hogan again, and this time we're going to be hearing from Renee Miller.
yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Renee.
Thank you for having me.
So, Renee, I understand that you are the founder and executive director of City Walk Urban Mission.
That's right.
And your primary purpose is just to help people who are hurting.
Exactly.
Well, we like to talk about people's comeback stories. And I know that you had a difficult childhood, escaping from a religious cult. And now you are a woman who helps those who maybe need help the most here in Tallahassee. So we want to talk about your comeback story and talk about all the good work that you're doing here today.
Thank you.
Will you please start off by telling us about your childhood?
Okay, well, that part's a little bit depressing, but please don't be depressed by it, because it does have a happy comeback stronger ending. I was raised in a religious cult. My parents were 5th generation, so I would be 6th generation in this, which that's important to hone in on, just that it wasn't like, I had normal grandparents or normal aunts and uncles. Like, it was all of us. So it was very isolated in that sense. I was an only child. I was homeschooled. I love homeschool. I homeschool my own children. However, the reason why they did it was only for control and isolation. So it was very different. Things that I have learned, I have taught myself. My mom didn't really teach me past like third grade. Once I could read, I was on my own. I was sexually molested from the age of 4 until 7. Hundreds of times, this person had access to me, a friend of the family, on a daily basis. And so it was at least 3 times a week for all of those years. So that was hundreds of times. And when growing up, my parents, what their rule was, you listen to adults, children are seen and not heard. If you voiced your opinion, you just got slapped and knocked down. And so to voice your opinion when that's going on, even though it was something that I didn't like and didn't understand and was scared, you couldn't do anything. And so finally, as the abuse was escalating, I told my parents what happened. Because of the way their religion is set up, they don't take any outside help from organizations like, counselors or police. You couldn't go to them with that. So I, as a 7-year-old, had to face this person in this private tribunal in this room and share everything that was happening, which again, I didn't understand and didn't know words for. And then when I was 10, I woke up to my dad molesting me. My dad told my mom and said it was an accident, and just to make sure I stayed away from him. And so, my mom came to me at age 10 and said, your daddy had an accident and stay away from him, just don't snuggle him or whatever. And so I didn't understand that, and was just very terrified. Basically, it was always just trying to hide, and you were not heard. And so, honestly, if I could just be real, I still have nightmares on a regular basis, and I'm always like either running or hiding or screaming, and nobody can hear me, and my parents are always there. I'm 42. This is like a lifetime ago, but it just, even though you heal and you do come back stronger, just the effects of trauma, they do stay with you. It's very real, something you always have to work on. The abuse continued to go on and on. I was beat actually until I was married off into this cult to someone who I didn't love, but there was no other alternative. It was like you either stay there in that house or you get married and you have a husband to listen to. And so I got married at 17, had a baby at 18, had another baby at 19, fell into some serious depression, and was so depressed between, in my early 20s that I actually constantly contemplated suicide, but I didn't want to leave my babies behind. And by the time I was 21 and 22 and 23 and 24, I had multiple visits to the behavioral center, not because I'm like crazy, but because I felt like I was so depressed. I just wanted to die, but I didn't want to die. So, and then after, you're kind of out for a while, and now I'm working. And so I know other people who are not in this group, and I just was questioning things like I didn't want to serve a God that was just so vengeful and you could never please. And so I kind of gave up on God altogether and just was like, you hate me, so I hate you, and it doesn't matter. And one day, this person I met actually at a Chamber of Commerce leads group said to me, now he was a minister, and he said, Renee, God loves you enough to meet you right where you are, but too much to let you stay there. And I think you have it backwards. Your whole life you spent trying to clean yourself up and be good enough for God, but he wants you just as you are, and you let him do the rest. I said, if you can make my pain have some purpose, I think I can stop being angry. And so then I just said, open my eyes to the people who are hurting, the people that need you, and show me how I can help them. And it has evolved from there.
I want to hear more about the City Walk Urban Mission and what y'all do to try to help others come back stronger.
Okay, awesome. Well, we work with the homeless, ex-offenders, families, and individuals in crisis. We know that you can't really work on yourself, any past trauma, hurts, and self-actualization unless your basic human needs are met. And so we start right there, meeting needs with food, clothing, and housing. We have emergency housing for someone. It's a low threshold emergency shelter. And then we also have transitional housing for men coming out of prison with the work and reentry program. And then we're also working on a permanent supportive housing program for people who are either waiting on Section 8 or permanent supportive housing, or can't quite get there. They're falling in a gap somewhere. And so we're expanding our men's program to hold about 40 people. And then our permanent supportive housing gap service will hold about 15. We have currently 62 beds in our emergency shelter. Then with the food pantry, the clothes closet, and things like that.
Wow, you're serving such a crucial need for our community. That's amazing. Where did you find all this strength to take on just such a big project? I mean, you've had so much stress in your life and so much trauma, and now you're turning around and you're helping other people face it. How are you so awesome? How did you get the strength?
No, it is none of it's me. I mean, honestly, you don't see the stress that I have behind I guess I have a mask or something. I feel like you can see right through me, but I do get terrified, and I still get depressed, and I still struggle with things, but I just always want to be obedient. And so when the Lord prompts me to do something, I want to act on that. I would rather be obedient and kind of mess up that way than mess up by being disobedient and not doing anything. And so when I see a need, I feel like, hey, I'm seeing it because I'm the one that's supposed to do something about it, instead of just going, oh, there's a need, somebody should do something. I feel like if I saw it, then that somebody is me.
Well, I love that, because just because you came back stronger doesn't mean you're not still having struggles, as you still have strength every day to keep moving. But I really love what you said, that when you see a need, you feel like you're seeing it because you're the one that's supposed to meet that. That's really powerful. I really like that. I'm gonna start thinking that way. I like that.
Thank you.
Well, Renee Miller, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, what a great story. That gave me chills.
Wow.
What did you think about Renee's story? I know you saw the
my
Empower
gosh.
Hour the other day, and she shared a little bit more with us there. You can always catch those episodes on YouTube, like you can these as well on our YouTube channel. But, you know, she shared with me her religion and how that was a motivation for her mission, but I had no idea the other parts of the story.
What really struck me about it, and I think this is so powerful, is how Renee was able to turn her pain into a purpose. So because she realized what she had been through was so traumatic and so painful, now she just wants to help other people who are going through challenges. And she's starting from the very basics of making sure that they have their basic needs so that they can work on themselves to become, as she said, self-actualized.
Right.
I thought that was powerful.
You know, there's a hierarchy of needs. You know, we all are trying to work toward the top where we are self-actualized, but that's a lofty goal when people a lot of times don't have, you know, a roof over their head, food on the table, and clothes on their back. And she helps with that every day. She helps the people that a lot of people give up on. So we'll be back to wrap up right after this. This is the most rewarding job. I tell people, if anybody knows about me in my past, I was a social worker, and I loved the spirit of the job. I loved the mission, but I felt like I couldn't do as much for them as I wanted to do. You meet your client where they are. You know, you meet them where they are, not where you want them to be, not where you want them to get it together and come into your lovely office and act appropriately. You know, sometimes I have to go to your house so you can be real, so you can show me, so you can break down. I don't mind doing that. That's part of the process. But the more I can do that, the more you do feel better. And like, you can be somebody who can go into any office at any time and maintain your composure, because you were able to be as vulnerable as you needed to be with somebody that you needed to trust to get you through this. And once I do that and I get them on the other side of it, it finally occurs to them, it's like a light bulb goes off. It finally occurs to them that Dana didn't do this. I did this. I got myself here. And we're back. We're talking about Renee Miller and everything she went through in her horrendous childhood.
Oh
Not only was it unusual, she was so
horrible.
removed. Can you imagine going through that and then not getting to go to school and at least get a break from your home life with your friends? At least get a teacher or a counselor or a coach who gives you some special attention. She didn't have that. She was just marinated and mired in a very dysfunctional environment. And when you see how she's pulled herself out of that, and again, she did it with faith. Do you see that so much in the people you help, their faith?
Absolutely, 100%. It's and it crosses all religions too, but it's having a belief in something greater than themselves, and also having a belief in themselves and their ability to overcome.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I really, another takeaway, and it's so prevalent in these comeback stories, is there was one person that said something to her that made the difference. Someone showed her some kindness, paid attention to her, understood her struggle, and said, "You're going about it the wrong way." And it's those conversations sometimes that we have with people that can change everything. I had a guy, I literally had a guy that was cleaning my pool, now he's a friend of mine, but he was cleaning my pool, and I just told him about the fact that I had gone to prison and that I had become a lawyer and a managing partner of a law firm, and I told him my story, and I didn't even think anything of it. I just told him the story. 6 months later, he writes me and he writes me on Facebook and he says, "I just want you to know that your story, you telling me that story, changed my life. And I went from cleaning pools for somebody else, and now I have my own business. I bought my own house. I changed my entire life just because of that one conversation that you had with me." And it's so powerful.
That feels so good. Well, what I was going to say, you know, in our work as personal injury lawyers, we have clients, and a lot of times they've had a lot of bad breaks, and they've made some bad choices along the way, and they a lot of times feel like justice isn't available to them, or people won't take me seriously because I'll find out about my, you know,
past,
youthful indiscretions or my mistakes, and like, you know, Renee, and like so many people we hear about these stories, you know, just simply believing in these people who've already written themselves off.
Yes.
That's what I like. Just the installation of hope. Just saying, no, you're looking at yourself wrong. The rest of the world doesn't see you that way. And when they put on that view of themselves and they see the potential, then every door opens because they close them themselves.
You are so right. Just like with Leon, and Judge Foster believed in him. And then with Renee, and then the minister believed in her enough to share with her his wisdom. And those are the kind of conversations. And we go through life, and the little things that we do, we sometimes don't even realize that they have a big impact on everybody else. I mean, think about all the lives that Renee is changing because she was able to come back stronger.
And if you know of a good Comeback Stronger story, I hope you reach out to us at comebackstronger@faceitbrooks.com and follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you next time. I like that people who don't have the money to pay for lawyers, they can come to a contingency fee lawyer, someone like us who only gets paid when we recover for them, and they can go toe-to-toe with giants.
You are actually just coming to us, not paying us anything, and if we're successful in getting you money, we get paid. And the more money we get for you, the more money we get. So our interests are totally aligned.
And it's a wonderful system because otherwise, how many people can afford to go hire a lawyer by the hour just so they can have their day in court? That would be almost no one. That would mean justice is only available in America to rich people otherwise. But the contingency fee agreement allows everybody to go in on equal footing. It levels the playing field. But to me, it's saying we're equal. Okay, just because you have all those resources behind you doesn't mean I have to take whatever you give me. I've got a lawyer that I can afford who can stand up to you on the same playing field, equal ground in front of a judge, and I will get treated the same way those big corporations will be treated.